Hello everyone, this is a History Police video and this time we're reviewing season 2 of Versailles. Versailles is definitely one of my favorite historical TV shows. The costumes, the vibe, and honestly the acting is quite superb. I really don't think that we can criticize the acting, and though I'm not sure really how truly, how was with the 14th truly, I love how he's portrayed in this show because there is this strength, there is this need for control, but there's also this vulnerability, and I think that is very good. In this History Police video, where I review the whole season, you can imagine I'm not going to do breakdown by episode, so it's going to be like an overview of the season itself. So what I would like to cover is obviously the big theme, which is obviously Madame de Montespan, the rise and the fall of Madame de Montespan, the affairs of the poisons, l'affaire des poisons, and obviously the role of La Voisin. This idea of, mysticism and magic, dark magic and all of this. And I think it's very interesting because it shows you, it gives you a glimpse of what it was like to be in the early modern period, to live in the early modern period. Superstitions was a very big thing. And often women were blamed and accused of witchcraft, but also, of having that kind of interest in love potions and other type of treachery and tricks that they could use to have any type of power or influence at court. So basically, each time a woman is kind of powerful, influential, she can easily get kind of a bad reputation. And I'm not saying that it's all untrue with Madame de Montespan, but I think it's just way more complex. I would also like to discuss, obviously, the new character, Elizabeth Charlotte, Madame Palatine, the second wife of Philip, Duke of Orleans. Discuss their relationship, discuss also the portrayal in the series. So let's do this, let's dive in Versailles season 2. Madame de Montespan is a very emblematic and complex character. She's so well portrayed in this show, I have to say. I love the strength of the actress. I love how she portrays herself. I love how she conducts herself. I love how she's... Obviously, we have scenes where she's completely defiant to the queen. We have this rivalry between a mistress and the queen. And it is something that is so recurrent over history. It was not easy for a queen to have another woman that was so influential. And when we talk about royal mistresses, we talk about how they have sexual relationships with the kings. But it's much more than that. It's a relationship. It's sometimes a friendship. I mean, you do not gain so much influence and power at court just because you sleep with the king. The king can sleep with anyone he wants. And he doesn't have one mistress. He doesn't have one woman. So it's not sex that is going to keep the king interest. It's your wit, it's your intelligence, it's your sense of humor. Are you gonna make him laugh? Are you gonna make him interested? And it's such a recurring theme throughout history. We have it also with Anne Boleyn, and I can't believe that I managed to get Anne Boleyn into this video, but it's true as well. How did she manage to catch and to keep the interest of Henry VIII for so long? To a point where he's going to divorce his wife, break with Rome, and be with her. Obviously, here I'm very simplifying things. But that's absolutely kind of crazy to have this. And here, again, we have it. We have this Madame de Montespan, beautiful, charming, everything. More than that, she's shrewd. She's intelligent. And she knows what to do. She has her own network. She has her own influence. And she's so well portrayed in this season 2. And in this season 2, we have obviously her rise and her fall. And I think here what is well explained, but I think they just go too far into the dark magic, into the superstitions, and they kind of like vilify a little Madame de Montespan. And I'm not saying that she doesn't entirely deserve it, but sometimes we weren't there, and it's very hard to know actually what she actually did. And we have to know as well that there were lots, especially in the sources, we have lots of detractors of her enemies that want to bring her down. And not just on a relationship level, obviously she's a great enemy of the queen, but of any other privy councillors, because they realize that a woman has much more influence on Louis XIV than they do, and they don't like it. So I would like us to kind of take a step back into what actually happens, and we're going to discuss that, but also what is the role of Madame de Montespan, the real Madame de Montespan, and how in the TV show it's a bit kind of, she's a bit more vilified. And let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this. I think she truly is. Françoise Athénaïs de Rochechouart, Marquise de Montespan, was a French noblewoman and the most celebrated royal mistress of King Louis XIV. During their romantic relationship, during even their friendship, which lasted, almost a decade, which again shows that it was more than a sexual relationship. I mean, if the relationship lasted a decade, if she managed to have influence over the king for over a decade, it means that there was more than just, attraction between them. She was sometimes even referred as the true Queen of France, and I think that obviously the Queen would not have liked that. And it shows again the real kind of rivalry between the two women, which is so well portrayed in the show, because we have in an episode, the Queen trying to get Montespan in trouble, because obviously Louis XIV is giving her money, is giving her lands, and she's like, the Queen is like, you have debts. And Montespan is like, no, I don't have debts. These have been gifts. And she's like, no, they're not gifts. The king cannot give you all of this. And there's a real fight. And then the king arrives. And he's basically telling us, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? But what's interesting is that during that scene, we have obviously the queen, but we have the men around her. And these are privy councillors. These are councillors to the king. And you can see that it is a power struggle for who's going to have the most influence on the king. So it's not really about, a jealousy between women for the love and affection of Louis XIV. It's about who has power, who has the most influence, who's the most influential, who's in control. And I would argue that it is the biggest rivalry between the Queen and Montespan is because of that. It's not because of their love for Louis XIV. Montespan was a noblewoman. She was maid of honor to Princess Henrietta, Duchess of Orleans, and later lady-in-waiting to Queen Maria Theresa. She was noted for her great beauty, her wit, the way she was showing herself, but you can see it absolutely in the show, like she's so brilliant. But Louis had another, obviously, he had other mistresses, but he had another kind of love or interest, and it was Louise de la Vallière. And this is something that really, like, if she wanted to kind of, it's not, I really don't believe that it's just about, a loving relationship, a love relationship. It's, again, about power. And Montespan was someone who just didn't want to be put on the side or just be one of the mistresses. And so her goal was to kind of become closer to the king than Louise. And that's where all the rumors are going to start, with the affair of the poison that I'm going to describe to you and explain to you, so you can understand what's going on in the show. But let's talk first what actually happened in the history. The affair of the poisons, or l'affaire des poisons, was a major murder scandal in France during the reign of Louis XIV. It happened between 1677 and 1682, where a number of very important noble members of the aristocracy, so not just noblemen, noblewomen, were sentenced on charges of poisoning and witchcraft. The scandal reached the inner circle of the king. And it's where, there's all these rumors that Versailles was after all not this safe place, was after all not this safe haven for the king. It led to the execution of 36 people, which is major when you think about the aristocracy. It actually began in 1675, after the trial of Madame de Brinvilliers, who was accused of having conspired with a lover to poison her father and two other brothers in 1666 and in 1670, in order to inherit their estates, to become, the heir to all their wealth. There was also rumors that she had poisoned poor people during her visits to hospitals. There's this idea of a almost serial killer here. After being accused, she fled, but she was eventually arrested in Liège. She was tortured and finally confessed and was sentenced to death. What happened here with that case was that there was more kind of like interest in what happened, but like, would it be possible that other noblewomen and noblemen did the same? Was it possible that there was like almost a trend here? More and more they were starting to have rumors about death and what happened, and basically about rivalry and everything around the idea that people could get poisoned. And there was this real fear, and you have it as well in the show, where Louis XIV is himself very scared of being poisoned. You know, you'll have someone who's going to taste his food for him. And that's actually historically accurate. There's a real fear that the king could be the target of this dark magic, or like these people who just want to get rid of others to put themselves at the top. Many other people were started to be accused of killing others, of poisoning others, and which led to, you know, almost the use of dark magic. The most famous case of that time was that a midwife, Catherine Deschet-Monvoisin, or La Voisin, was arrested in 1679 after she was incriminated by the poisoner Marie Bosse. And there's this idea that she was actually involved and linked to many other aristocrats. And one of them, one of the names that appeared was Madame de Montespan. While La Voisin was questioned, tortured, she revealed that La Montespan has asked for love potions, that they have together performed black masses in order to gain and keep the king's favor. So here, you know, no one could really understand why the king, you know, was more and more interested in Montespan, why he would discard Louise, why he would just show more favor to Montespan. And now it became clear that La Voisin explained and revealed that it was what happened, that she was giving like love potions, that they were performing like some type of rituals to gain and keep the king's attention. So when people are like, I don't understand how, you know, Louis XIV and Montespan could have stayed together for 10 years, here we have kind of an explanation. That was because there was a love potion, there was like these rituals. There was absolutely no evidence, despite the confession, and the confession was obviously under some type of torture. Eventually, La Voisin was sentenced to death for witchcraft and poisoning and burned at the stake on 22nd February 1680. There was also new trials to look for other people who had been implicated with La Voisin. How many people actually had suffered from La Voisin, you know, dark magic and influence and, you know, dark rituals and all of this. So here other people are going to be prosecuted and executed. The impact on Montespan was brutal, and in the show it is kind of treated, you know, we have when she's going to see La Voisin, we have again all this idea that it's actually true. Though again, in the archives we have no evidence apart from a confession that was said under torture. You can argue that some people wanted La Voisin to incriminate Montespan so they can get rid of Montespan. What happened in the real Montespan, in the real life, in the real history? She was charged with conspiring to kill the king. But there were so many, you know, contradictory in the testimonials. There was still like a lack of evidence. And because there was so much lack of evidence, so much lack of real proof of her crimes, in 1691, Montespan was retired to the Filles de Saint-Joseph convent. And while we have this kind of like very tragic end, though she's not executed, she's, you know, retired, but she loses all her influence, she loses all her power. Yet there's still, because she was the mother of illegitimate children of the kings, like it meant that she could, I think that's why he probably didn't wish to go as far as executing her. But also because there was a big lack of evidence. Was she truly implicated in that? Was she trying? Did she use love potion and dark magic to get the king's attention? I really don't believe so. Did she try to kill him? I wouldn't see the point of it. Her relationship with the king was where she was getting her power. So if she lost the king, she lost her influence, she lost her power, she lost her wealth. Why would she do that? So here I think like our enemies were just trying really hard to get rid of her and tarnish her name. And it worked. It really worked, because in the end, she was exiled. She was not allowed to see the king. And one can wonder if there was a bit of a love relationship here. Despite everything I said, despite that she might have used it as a way, obviously, to gain, power and influence, but it doesn't mean that she was devoid of emotions. So the way she's portrayed in the show, the humiliation in the end, I think is quite accurate. I think overall it's quite well depicted. The only thing I'm not sure is that I don't really like that the show kind of hint towards that she was guilty, where we really don't have the evidence to prove any of it. The other focus of this video, History Police video, is obviously Elizabeth Charlotte, Madame Palatine. I think that, again, we have another strong woman who comes in that season 2, and she's absolutely brilliant. And obviously she comes at a time where the relationship with the 14th and Philip is quite difficult. He had left court, he's going to come back, and he's going to be forced to marry again. And at first, the relation, like, she's thrown into it, and she's shown as someone very direct, very honest. She's basically not really fitting with the 14th court. She's not fitting the glory. She's not fitting with all the trickery. She's not fitting with all the lies and everything. But actually, she's going to be one of the best things that could have ever happened to his court. And I think this is so well portrayed in the show. Elizabeth Charlotte, the real Elizabeth Charlotte, was also known as Lieselotte, and she was a German member of the House of Wittelsbach, who married into the French royal family. She is truly a force to be reckoned with. Her relationship with Philip is going to be tumultuous, but they're going to have children together. We have one of her letters, like real letters, when she finally met Philip, so when the marriage negotiations were made, and she said, "Monsieur didn't look ignoble, but he was very short, had pitch black hair, eyebrows and eyelids, big brown eyes, a long and rather narrow face, a big nose and mouth that was too small, and ugly teeth. More feminine than masculine manners, loved neither horses nor hunting, nothing but games, holding circle, eating well, dancing and being dressed, in a word, everything that ladies love. The king loved gallantry with ladies. I do not believe that my husband has been in love in his life." So she wrote that to Caroline, Princess of Wales, in 1716. So she wrote this, explaining how she felt about him. And it's so funny because the description is so far from, obviously, the gorgeous Philip we have in the show. So it's a very romanticized version of Philip, Duke of Orleans, that we have in Versailles, definitely. But they're kind of like, the way they meet and their dynamic is going to work. And you see that it's kind of a friendship, that they're not supposed really to be together. It's not, a match made in heaven. It's probably not even a love relationship, but it's definitely a friendship that is going to grow over time. Where also, Madame is going, we call him Monsieur, and so she's Madame Lieselotte, is going to really grow in importance, grow in favor, and show that she's a good asset to the French royal family. And I think in the show, the way she's portrayed is absolutely remarkable. She's absolutely like nailing the role of Lieselotte. I love how she's portraying it, and I love the storyline. I love that we have the complexity at the beginning of their relationship. Basically, they're both very disappointed. They don't really want to get married to each other, being forced into it, but something good is going to come out of it. And that is historically accurate. Now that I've explained at least the two most important strands of season 2 of Versailles, let me know what you really liked in Versailles season 2, and I'll review Versailles season 3 very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Bye!